What are the root causes of violence against women and children? Why is it important for the nation to speak out against women and children abuse? Of what importance are the 16 days of no violence against women and children? And how much do mindsets and societal attitudes impact the spread of gender-based violence? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. The department in the Presidency responsible for women is hard at work in ensuring that women and children fully enjoy their human rights as enshrined in the country's Bill of Rights. As a sign of commitment to eradicate violence against women and children, the department has embarked on national dialogues on violence against women and children. The program will traverse the country talking to women and men from all spheres of life in all provinces throughout 2017. The 16 Days of Activism that ended recently is an intervention by government to create a society free of all forms of violence. The department has started implementing the hashtag 365 Days of Activism of engagement with communities in order to talk to them and understand their challenges. But what will it take to eradicate gender-based violence? We are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial 089-1104-210. My guest, Susan Shabangu. She's the minister in the Presidency responsible for women. Minister, welcome to the show. And I'm happy we're talking today way after the confined 16 days, which we normally commemorate every year. How do we ensure that the message that is communicated throughout the 16 days is sustained for 365 days?
Well, I must say that is why we are moving away from just the 16 days. Because if you talk about 16 days, it's as if violence against women and children happens around the 16 days. We know that it happens throughout the year, 365 days, but also almost every minute in our society. That's why we decided to launch the national dialogues, so as to make sure that we move away from more of event and activities which then end after 16 days. The President launched it on the 25th of November, the national dialogues. We decided to start in Limpopo to go to all municipalities. So we're in partnership with various stakeholders, private sector, your civil society, particularly in the areas where we go, but also your social workers, psychologists, various communities and various professionals are involved in making sure that when we go to each area, we work together in making sure that we address violence against women. Not only talking to women, we are also talking to men, which was never the case in the past. And I must say, our first experience in Limpopo has shown that there are vast gaps, but also attitudes. As we engage with various communities, you realize that there are men who believe that they cannot be told by a woman. But when we engage them, and they start realizing the importance of respecting women. And one of the fundamental factors is the issue of drugs, and also economic conditions do lead to a lot of women abuse in various societies.
So who's participating in these dialogues?
Well, I must say, for the first time, we've gone to meet ordinary people. You go to a village and engage with that particular village and have sessions, and including young women, young men. And very interesting, we also had session in one community of learners, grade 4, grade 3 learners, who were telling us about their own experiences and how they work as a group to protect themselves. Because there's a person in Limpopo called Abutsipo, who the kids believe disappears and vanishes, and he has these superpowers. And those are some of the myths which then tend to create an impression that there are people who are above the law. So we engaged, including the police were involved, social workers. And one of the major cries It's that women complain, including men, that when they report cases of abuse, the police tend to not to show any interest. So these are some of the issues we are addressing.
The problem, and I mean, this is just my personal observation, is that violence against women is taken as a domestic matter. It's regarded as differences amongst two people.
Well, you can say it's domestic matter, but it becomes a societal matter, a community matter, because you can say, yes, we have Domestic Violence Act, which protects whether women or men who are involved in that. But the reality, there are also economic challenges which contributes to the abuse itself. Most of it, you realize that the woman is not working, and even if she might wish to leave that partnership, she can't, because she's dependent on the partner. There are children who must be taken to school. So you find that the woman is stuck in that relationship and cannot move on. Hence, we have partnered with some sitters. We had Ekurhuleni College, which went to Limpopo and started giving skills to women.
Okay.
We've recruited about 25 young women who are going to be trained at Ekurhuleni for 3 years. So that's also part of empowerment in making sure that women can be able to sustain themselves and are able to take care of themselves. So those are some of the issues we're looking at.
The reason why I'm saying it is widely regarded as a domestic matter, it then becomes perhaps difficult, if not impossible, for other people, whether it be neighbors or family, relatives and all that, because then they are told, stay away from it.
That is why we've got to talk about violence against women, including domestic violence, because as you correctly say, we've long passed the stage of ukenakai. That is why men also have to change their attitudes. We must work on awareness for men and women to respect each other and stop the issue of ukenakai, and also stop the issue of because that's the attitude. So I'm taking, then therefore you're an object. So we can't continue having an object, because this violence also impacts on the children. The well-being of the children gets affected, their attitude. And that's why you find that most boy children think it's normal to hit at a girl, because at home there's nothing wrong if dad hits mom. So we've got to change that attitude. And I must say, what we saw in Limpopo, it was very interesting. I must also say, men have their own complaints. They are also aggrieved. And we had sessions with men who were highly aggrieved, who raised issues and concerns about the behavior of women. So we are not looking at changing the attitude of women, we're also looking at changing attitudes and educating both men and women on how to behave, how to contribute in society. But mainly for the women, we want to see women being more empowered and being able to raise the issues. And some of the issues which we found in Limpopo was drugs, the high rate of drugs amongst the community. The issue of taverns was one of the major issues which was raised by both men and women. And I think those are the societal problems which we have to address if we must make sure that we deal with violence against women.
Let me just remind our viewers there at home that indeed you can call us and air your views. The numbers are on your screen, 0891104210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. Let's hear what you think of this subject of violence against women and children. But Minister, the other thing is, whilst you're saying that you were talking to men in Limpopo, what comes to mind is that rural men wouldn't really take kindly to being, addressed by women, on issues which they feel are very important for them.
Well, I must say you're right, but very interesting. As you persuade them, they start opening up. But also, as I say, they start raising their own concerns around violence. But also part of it, they talk about themselves not being respected by their wives or partners because they're not working.
Okay, hold it there, Minister. Let's take Tsepiso. You are in Germiston. Welcome.
Good day, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for the call, Tsepiso.
Sharp, man.
Yes.
Actually, the problem actually started whereby we don't respect ourselves, And then look what's happening whereby it's Northwest, there were the brothel house, whereby the young kids, they're being kidnapped or either used as a prostitute. But the fact of the matter is that as we South African, we don't have the rules or either like those guys who sell drugs actually, because I've heard they raise the issue of drugs, then who's using too much drugs? For example, if you can go to Joburg or see any CBD around Gauteng, it's only certain people who use drugs and abuse children. At the age of 14, or either they just use them illegal, or either send them to sell drugs at school or at university. But we are not doing anything. And when you look at those issues, the police officer are the first culprit of those things. If you can look at Jimmy State now, where I'm staying next to police station. When the car goes outside, having what you call siren, they're escorting drugs, or they are going to escort someone who's selling drugs. But it's Nigerians who are doing those things. But our government are not doing anything. Everybody knows that, but we are scared to solve because of our country doesn't have rules. Even what you call a city of Joburg, Mashaba, says that we must fix our country, because if you can't fix our country, this thing will be like all over, and we can't be able to solve those things.
Okay, Tsepiso, thank you very much for the call. Well, we've got a representative of government today. She will respond, but only after the break. The numbers to dial: 089-110-4210. This is question time.
It's more than a gift, it's capturing summer magic. Get a Galaxy S7 Edge with Tab 3 Lite bundle for $6.99 per month on My MTN Choice Flexi 200. Plus your choice of a Gear VR or an accessory kit. The Galaxy S7 Edge, now in blue coral.
Here it is. The moment she turned the party into the party. Just look at them. They will talk about this for at least the rest of the evening. And, well, possibly once or twice tomorrow morning. So, to the master of the trick shot, you are indeed a party comrade. And we salute you with a bottle of Valentine's finest blended Scotch whiskey for just $144.99 from Tops at Spa.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time, and indeed you can call us. The numbers to dial: 089-110-4210. And my guest today is Ms. Susan Shabang. She's the Minister in the Presidency responsible for women. Karabo, you are calling us from around Gauteng. Karabo? Okay, Karabo is no longer there, but indeed we'll be taking those calls. Minister, well, I wouldn't want to get into this generalization of Nigerians and all that. I think it's out of order, and people must contextualize their complaints. But there's a point that came up during the break here in Twala. It's still rife in rural areas. How is government protecting the girl child from Uktwalo?
Well, I must say that if you remember, last year we had a case which was appealed, and the person got 20 years in Western Cape, Jezile. It's referred to as Jezile. But also in KZN, I know of cases where young girls were being twalaed, and the MEC for Social Development intervened, and those people are going to jail because it's illegal. As you know, that some of the girls who are being twalaed are very young, and they're below
babies.
Exactly. So what is key is that the communities themselves must not allow wrong things to happen in the community. And one of the issues I always say, don't say it's none of my business. It must be a community's responsibility to protect children.
Okay.
And we know that some of the parents believe that they'll get lobola, but lobola is a form of slavery for the young people, because it becomes, the girl becomes an object, and we can't allow that to continue.
Sydney, you are in Limpopo. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for the call, Sydney.
Oh, very well, thanks.
Yes.
I hear the minister saying, talking about the visit in Limpopo. Where was she in Limpopo, and how were people invited to these things if we don't know about it?
Okay, Sydney, where are you?
Sorry?
Where are you in Limpopo?
I'm in Venda. I'm in the rural villages of Venda.
Where in Venda?
In Jerere.
Where in Jared?
Zanani.
Okay. Wow. Sydney is in Zana.
Well, we visited, we're in Lebuakhomu, we're in Mutsi, we are in Vembe. So we went to all the municipalities. If you didn't get the message, we made public announcements. We worked with the municipalities in making sure that we informed various communities. And I must also say to Sydney, that's not the end of it, because we will be going back. For instance, Koshi Kekane said we need to come back.
Yes.
He's going to call his subject, especially men. We must come and talk to them, because he believes it's very important for the men to change. So we're not confined to particular areas, we're not confined to urban areas, we also go to rural areas. That's why now we're talking about 365 days.
Because the myth, Minister, is that it is only rural women who are being abused. Yet, the worst abuse cases are reported in places like Midrand Police Station.
Well, it's very interesting what you say, because there was a perception that we're only going to urban areas.
Okay.
You know, so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And we've got to cover the various jurisdictions, because as you correctly say, those in the cities say it's happening in the rural areas, those are saying it's happening in the cities. But the reality is that it's across the board.
And the other myth, I'm sorry, Minister, to interject. The other myth is that it is illiterate women who are abused.
Let me say, that myth does not exist. This is a cross-cutting problem, a societal problem, not only in South Africa, globally. Both illiterate women and illiterate women. That's why I'm talking, it's a societal problem. It's a societal issue. We've got to deal with attitudes of men, attitudes of women, but also when women, in fact, I must tell you that the illiterate women become highly abused, because you think it's only those women who are illiterate. But they're there because there's a stigma attached to it. So if I'm a doctor, if I'm a professional, I can't report. I must always show this brave face, even if I'm a victim of abuse, domestic violence at home.
Yes.
So those are the issues we're dealing with, to say we've got to change them. Because at the end of the day, it's not only the woman in the rural area who becomes a victim, it's also the women in the cities. In fact, the women in the urban areas are even worse, because they get killed. So that's the extent of the violence which is faced by women who are better off. Hence, we are saying, let's all hold hands. We're working with professional women. We are calling upon all women, including those women who believe that they end up being stigmatized by violence in the family and all that. But we know the high rate of divorce in South Africa, it's a result of domestic violence or abuse within the various relationships. So we have to talk about it. We have to make sure that the laws which we have can work. But the laws on their own are not enough. We need action. Hence, we will be going to all provinces and saying hashtag 365 days, talking to everybody, talking to faith-based organizations, for all of us to make sure that we address this problem.
Well, we've focused or concentrated mainly on women, but there's children here who are also abused by their parents, who take their SASA grants, go and play cards and gamble, and make sure that the money which is meant for this poor little soul does not end up servicing the needs of this poor little soul.
That is why we're working with social development. We've got social workers who can address those issues because the children must be protected. So we're working with social workers and social development in making sure that when we come across such problems, then there must be interventions. Unfortunately, some of the parents, when the kids are taken away, they complain and cry to say that they don't say, you know, I've been abusing my child. The child is not benefiting from the grant. So when they get taken away, it becomes an issue. But we also educate our people, especially neighbors too, to say when they see that, they must report such incidents to protect the child.
And children are not believed, by the way, when they report abuse.
Well, I must say that that's the role of the social workers. Communities cannot believe, but where there was a case of a neighbor who reported abused children to social workers, and government acted.
Okay.
Those kids were removed from the parents. So I want to appeal to our communities, when these matters affecting children, not only children, including women, they must report such cases. Don't keep it to yourself because you're rescuing that child or you're rescuing the women, that woman who's being abused. So I think we need to develop a culture as society, as South African communities, in making sure that we report, raise alarm when it realizes that there's abnormalities which are happening within our communities.
It's festive season, it will be Christmas very soon, but some women and children are not going to enjoy their Christmas.
I agree, I know. I want to appeal to all South Africans, let every woman, every man becomes a father to every child, and make sure that they become protectors of society. If anything happens, you're right. During festive season, these matters tend to be much more higher than any other time. But let's all make sure that we become protectors of our society.
Well, I just wanted to round up the dialogues that are going to be happening. Is there a particular schedule that is going to be followed, or what should communities out there look out for?
Well, we've got schedules which we have. Our next 10 will be in Mpumalanga, but also as we've left Limpopo, there's work going on the ground. It's not that now we off as the department, nothing happens. We're working with all various government departments. There's a lot of work which is going to continue happening. There'll be opportunities for young people to be skilled and some to be trained as facilitators, but also taking up cases which have not been properly dealt with, whether by police or social workers, because that's the only way we think we can, when people can see a recourse, we'll have hope in government and society as a whole. And the last point I want to make is that abuse of women and children, it's not a matter of government alone. It's a societal problem. We need to hold hands with various civil society organizations, including men's organizations, in making sure that we fight violence against women and children.
Well, next year, Minister, whereas it is a year where you want to roll out the dialogues, it's also a year of the ANC conference. Are you going to have time?
Well, as being in the ANC forever, there's always time for everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Minister Susan Shabang, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. That was our guest for today, Minister and the Presidency responsible for women, Susan Shabang. And that was Question Time. From me and the crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. Hi, Bechot.